We welcome Karen Keelock from Nedbank, who heads up the franchise department at Nedbank. She joins us today where we're actually going through the finance application process and the part of the process that we go through as part of the site sale process. And I think it's probably one of the most vital parts of this process, and the Nedbank PetroCONNECT partnership really brings this whole process together because of how closely we work together. So now that the sale agreement's signed, resolutions are signed, deposits been paid, we're ready to submit the pack to Nedbank. But first of all, let's just welcome Karen first, and welcome Karen.
Hi Mark, no, thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to this chat, and hopefully I can help and support where we can, and people can fully understand where this relationship fits in with PetroCONNECT and how Nedbank can support our incoming candidates who are wanting to own their own fuel station. So thank you, Mark.
So Karen, I think I would like to just go through this more as a sort of Q&A and just to understand some of the timelines and what you require from PetroCONNECT, what PetroCONNECT gives you, how the partnership kind of works, because I think that's a lot of where the questions come up for a lot of the sellers, a lot of the buyers, the oil companies. So we kind of have been through this journey now in this series of videos. We've been through the journey of the time that you actually start the process as a buyer. I'm interested in the industry. And then as a seller, you're also saying, I put my hand up and I'm saying, I want out of the industry, or, I'm having to move on, or I'm wanting to partner with someone. But we know that there's a whole process of it that goes in the background, appointment process, sale agreement process, due diligence, all that. But now we're at a point that Nedbank needs to come to the table and says, okay, we put up our hands and we want to finance these transactions. Right. So from the time of us signing a sale agreement, we allow for a 30-day period within that. But again, obviously that's from a time period of us having an approval, or rather from submitting, getting a signature from the buyer and seller to the time of the approval. So within your sort of time periods, how does that work, and how does that application process work, and how does it sort of work with PetroCONNECT in terms of the packs that we give you?
So it's a good question, Mark. I think what is so important is, first of all, is the partnership. I think people need to take comfort in that we do have a partnership with PetroCONNECT, but not just with PetroCONNECT. I think what is important is also the relationship we have with the oil companies. So when we actually request the information, be it from PetroCONNECT or be it from the oil company, we are aligned. So there's no duplication of documents. So I think that's also number one. We don't want to cause a number of documents coming from yourself, coming from the oil company, coming from the potential franchisee. It just causes a disruption in the whole process. So for me, what's more important is that you understand what Nedbank's documents are required. The oil company also understands what documents are actually required. From there, what I enjoy and what you guys provide, especially PetroCONNECT, is the pack that you give to Nedbank. So the day we receive that pack is the day we start our process. So our process, what we want to try and do, and we do have what we call an SLA in place with you guys, PetroCONNECT, is we would like to see that final approval on 14 days. So within that 14 days, it's about our bankers receiving the pack, unpacking that pack, having a look at the financials, having a look at the offer to purchase. Is the appointment letter in order? We need to assess all that. We also do our own due diligence. We do our due diligence as well, like you do, on the valuation. Is it in line with the purchase price? That for me is key. Number two, can the site actually support a loan of that magnitude? That's also key for us. And then from there, I think it's important for the banker to continue engaging with the potential operator at the same time and aligned to yourselves, who are also engaging all the time with both the potential operator and with the sellers.
So you basically got a 14 business day turnaround time from the time that the pack is sent to you. And that
Correct.
pack, I think, is obviously very critical because it's a very comprehensive pack
Correct.
that PetroCONNECT puts together that has every single requirement and that we've aligned on to ensure that you've got every document
Correct.
that you're needing. Of course, there's always those bits and pieces that has to get, organized by your business manager.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you've got a pack that gets unpacked by the business manager within the 14-day
Yes.
period, and we've got to have an approval on the cards within 14 days.
So I can provide a formal approval letter on that day 14, which I think is so important for the next step that needs to take place to allow takeover to, once DMRE licenses come through, and then obviously for takeover to take place. But I think just taking a step back, I think what I enjoy is when you do provide us that pack, it is aligned to Nedbank's information requirement. It was something we set out in the beginning, that this will not work if you do not understand what we need for the application to actually continue. And I think that's key for us, is if everything is there, I can guarantee that within 14 days, your new applicant will have their approval in place. If we find there is discrepancies, be it in the figures or be it in the pack of the information that's provided, we will certainly get on the phone to either PetroConnect with the seller, with the buyer, and we will need to, within 5 days, we need to ensure that that's actually sorted.
Because sometimes you have obviously packs that are sent by PetroConnect, which evaluation that we may not have had involvement in.
Correct.
There's certain oil companies that may handle that process themselves.
Yes.
But we are there to kind of assist and help where we need to and unpack what we need to.
Correct.
And certainly from valuations that we have done, I think the comfort that we can take is that the Nedbank and PetroConnect valuation process is very similar in the way that we work. Obviously, PetroConnect a lot more detailed because of the timeline that we take, because we make sure that everything is in order. And that for a due diligence for a buyer, that everything is there so that you don't have to bug your seller all the time and all that sort of thing. So I think the fact that those two align makes it a lot easier for the buyer, but in turn it helps the seller because of the fact that they can exit the business a lot quicker and that they know within a 2-week period, have we got a buyer or haven't we? Because you don't want to be strung along. I think that's the difficult part, and it's a lot of the challenges that we're seeing in the industry at the moment is they get strung along because finance can be a
delayed.
Challenge.
Exactly. And I think that's what's so important. We need to give back to the seller as well, and he needs to take comfort that he's got that as a bank we are going to provide that approval. And I can tell you we've probably had probably almost an 80% now approval rate across the last 2 years that we've onboarded sites and takeovers. And I think we've done that pretty good. I think successfully we have paid out a number of deals, and I'm hoping going forward we can continue to do that through this partnership that we hold with PetroConnect. But again, it goes back to exactly what you just said, Mark, is how do we give comfort back to the seller that he knows he's also going to be paid out, and when is he going to be paid out? Because we understand, as you said, everything takes time after that. That's when we start seeing things. It's not as quick as what we all thought, but that's unfortunately an industry norm that we can't get over.
So, I mean, if we talk that, because that's obviously the next step is this DMRE approval, Department of Energy, which we know has been challenging in the past, and I think we're really getting to grips with that and quickening this process. But once you've got an approval, PetroConnect has already, by that point in time, got a pack together that's going to be submitted to DMRE.
Yes.
So once we've got a letter of approval, before the facilities have been drawn up, we would be doing a submission to the department. So we're saying finance is in order, all other documents are in order, business plan, cash flows, etc. There's obviously a whole list that we take care of as PetroConnect from a DMRE perspective. We hand over the license in the Pretoria office. We obviously have runners on the ground that are constantly in the office to make sure that things are moving along. The pack's been submitted, and from that point in time, we now need to track the DMRE process while you are obviously getting your facility letters together and signatures by the candidate or the client.
100%. So even while you are continuing on that side, in the background, we don't wait for that DMRE license. We know we have our approval. So I think for us is key is how do we now fulfill all the rest of the conditions? So just to give you examples, we may need life cover. So we need the candidate to go out there now and get he or she's life cover. They need comprehensive insurance on that site, where they need to go and do that in the background. So we're not going to wait for the DMRE because we know that takes just as long to actually complete all those conditions in the background. So the important thing is while you continue there, we finish the conditions. So the day that license comes in, we can ready to go on basically takeover date.
So kind of PetroConnect and Nedbank are running parallel the whole 100%. Time, running on every process, and also those weekly meetings as 100%. Well as the constant communication between PetroConnect and Nedbank and the relationship management that holds between the two parties keeps the ball rolling. And of course, the oil company processes are part of that.
Correct.
So I think as we've always said within this whole process of the sale process that we've ensued here, there's never a time that an oil company is excluded from the process, or that there's no territory managers that are included. It is vital that we have that,
including your convenience
absolutely.
stores. So
everyone has to be part
involved.
of this.
Yeah.
But I think it's the guidance, the timelines, and the track and trace that's so important.
And I think what's also important to that, Mark, is your other partners, as you mentioned, oil companies, but we've also got other partners like OneSure. So we need to ensure that those guarantees that need to be issued, your fuel guarantees, or if a dry guarantee is required, we need to ensure, again, in the background, that's continuing behind the scenes while the DMRE license is also being approved.
And now that you've got an approval in place, we've been through that, we've now got the approval of the license in place. Where to from here? I mean, obviously there's certain other conditions that have to be met on your side, and then I know there's conditions when it comes to your franchise agreement that has to be done, because the oil company waits for that final piece of paper that we all cherish when we look at it.
So I think that's the key thing. Once you've got that DMRE license in your hand, the oil company then can provide the bank that last piece of paper, the lease agreement or the franchise agreement. We cannot proceed without that, and we cannot pay without that. Once then we have that, we know all the other conditions have actually been set out and signed. We can then, together with the seller and the buyer, they need to be part of the whole takeover process, and a date can be set. That once that date is set, then we all work towards that date, and we ensure that those funds are then paid out to the seller.
So, I mean, we're going to be sort of taking you through the process of the takeover, which is the process to ensue after this. And obviously, it's a wonderful partnership that PetroCONNECT and Nedbank has put together, and that's just grown over time, naturally gone through the challenges, standing by each other through those challenges, because I think the whole point of the industry is that it's not an easy industry. It's never going to be. So one does need to partner with the right people along the journey, post the process, pre the process, during the process. And I think that's what really makes it strong.
No, absolutely.